AL Central Rundown. With me today is Lee and Dan. Sam is going to jump on in just a bit, but he's just running a little behind. We're a little bit different off of our normal recording schedule, a little bit earlier, but the season in the playoffs, the AL Central, it's done. There's no more baseball games to cover because the Tigers have very sadly lost to the Mariners in one of the better playoff series you'll ever watch, unless your name is Lee or in Detroit. But it was a fun series, littered with a lot of former AL Central players. Naylor made an impact. Jorge Polanco made had a couple good games there, including the ultimate deciding run. But we're gonna probably just show the highlights from the last game because they get to be quite long. But Lee, before we talk about it, how you holding up, buddy?
Eh, I don't know. So we're recording this in the morning of October 12th. It's been a day and a half since Tigers were eliminated. I'm mostly just kind of sad because of I don't know. It's I keep going back and forth on how upset I should be or how angry I should be at the team. It's just kind of should I be happy that they made it this far, or should I be annoyed that they didn't make it farther, that kind of thing. But I think both things can be true, honestly, just based on how we started the season. But also at the same time, they came into the playoffs ice fucking cold, right? Like we always talk about how momentum is huge in the playoffs and you want to be hot in October. They were the opposite of hot coming into October. They were as cold as possible. But they became the first team in MLB history to lose the 5 series going into the playoffs and then win a playoff series. And they damn near won a second one. I mean, they basically forced a game 6 in the ALDS
Right.
thing. Like functionally, it was a that was a game 6. So yeah, I think I kind of land on that, but I'm also upset just on how poorly the offense has performed lately. So there's that.
Sure. To be fair, Seattle has a pretty good pitching staff. Like, it
Yeah,
could
it's
also
just
be good pitching as the poor offense.
yeah, it's not just those 5.5 games, right? It's just the entire month and a half leading into it, too. That's kind of
Right.
the part of the thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it was a damn good series. They made it close. Everyone expected the Mariners to kind of roll over us, but didn't happen. It was very
Oh,
close.
really?
So
That wasn't my impression.
yeah, that was kind of what the athletic. They did the writers
Oh,
pick.
that's right. You're right.
100% picked. They were that was. I mean, to be fair, they're also morons because 94% picked the Yankees over the Blue Jays, which is dumb. So maybe I shouldn't give that too much thought. But like 100, everybody thought the Mariners were just gonna win, and yeah, Mariners are the better team, but you know, the
Yeah, we'll
baseball.
talk.
There's always a chance.
I
Anyway, I kind of
we'll show up the series. We're gonna just look at the baseball reference page here. I'll just may as well just pull that up now. But to say one team is clearly better than the other is, to me, it seems silly. There were 5 games that went to an actual elimination game. 3 of the games were decided by not only one run, they were 3-2 games, and each team had a blowout on each side. Before we hit record, Dan even mentioned that Detroit actually won the run differential. They just, obviously lost the war. So I mean, this was about as good as a series you can ask for as a baseball fan. You just wish it went the other way if you're in Detroit.
yeah.
I
I
want
think
to speak to that just for a minute. Like, Lee, I'm kind of glad I'm not in your shoes because if I was, I'd be entirely confused about what you just witnessed in a way. Um, so Detroit was the best team in the sport for a good portion of the first half of the year. Has this epic collapse down the stretch, loses a 15 and a half game lead, and doesn't win the division. And then, I heard it a lot on media, especially like old players, former players saying like, now that we're in the playoffs, that doesn't matter. Like this is a whole like everybody's back to 0-0. We're starting all over. And my reaction to that was sure, whatever. It was skepticism. And turns out, yeah, it really doesn't. You get to October and everybody starts at 0-0, and all those good feels and bad feels seem to be wiped clean. I'm actually kind of the mind now where people go, oh, that team's hot in September. Like that's a team to watch out in the playoffs. I think if you peak in September, you peak in September, and you're actually peaking a little bit too early. I've seen
I
that
mean,
too many
clearly that
times
didn't
now with my team.
clearly it didn't matter,
So
right? I mean, the Tigers were the coldest team in baseball, and the Guardians were the hottest team in baseball, but that didn't mean shit because the Tigers won.
yeah.
The Mariners had an 8-game win streak going into the playoffs, and Tigers take them to Game 6. Like,
And just to finish off my point, then we get to the playoffs. Detroit, and if I'm being biased, then just tell me, but struggles to like well fought battle, 3 games, and everybody kind of goes, "Oh, the two AL Central teams are fighting each other because they're both mediocre." And
yeah,
then
that was
Detroit gets matched up with Seattle, and in my opinion, Seattle is the most talented team in this playoffs. In terms of they're well-rounded, they have a little, they're good at everything. I think you could. No, I'm going to stick with that. They're the best, most talented team overall, and Detroit took them as far as they possibly could to the brink. So on the one hand, you have all this stuff that suggests, wow, this team really underachieved because of the end of the year. And if you want to throw the series in with Cleveland, in, that's fine. But on the other hand, you took the most talented team in the playoffs to the brink. So there's a lot of potential there, I guess.
it's very
The
confusing.
organization needs to maximize it.
Yeah, I
I think it's a
think
matter of maximization.
there's a lot of conversation on how hot did they just get off to a hot start and then get lucky? How much is which team is the real team, right? We're back to the same place we were before
I
the
think,
season started.
and I'm 1,000 feet away, so it is what it is. But I think the answer to that is this team has a really high ceiling, maybe a World Series winning ceiling, but their ability to hit that ceiling isn't given. I think that's where I'm at. Like they need to apply themselves. It is a weird way to say it, but it, their ability to hit that ceiling is not a given.
I think that's fair.
The way that maybe it might be the way easier for like a Dodgers or
Oh, I think Dan just froze out. So
I think he did.
just to kind of go off this point, I think it was either Baseball Prospectus or it was, I can't remember who it was, but they've actually done studies on, if you're hot in September and then you get to the playoffs, what does that mean? And there's essentially no correlation between what your record was in September versus what it is in October, and even like going out further, like they'll look at the you know the season at its entirety. The playoffs, it's just a crapshoot. Like teams get hot for 3 weeks. If you happen to do that in October, you end up getting a World Series. So I know there you can say what you want about momentum and all of that, but at least like when people have actually looked back into it, there's no correlation.
Yeah, it's just I don't. We're back to the same place that I was at the end of last year and the beginning of this season. I don't know how good this team is. I don't know how much they were overachieving, and I don't know how much they were underachieving. Like, it's just very weird right now because
Yeah.
we're at the same place we were last at the end of last season, where they got hot at the, but just in reverse. They got hot at the end of it. They spent the first, I mean, they spent the first couple of months being 500, and then they dipped below that, and then they got hot. Which version is the real them? Did they just get hot, or did they, start achieving to their potential? And then at the beginning of this season, they spend 3-4 months playing like the best team in baseball, but then they get cold. Which
Right.
version of that is the real version?
I mean, I don't think this is like a very satisfying answer. The answer, it's both. They can have the highest ceiling, but if you don't play it consistent, your ceiling, unless you catch hot at the right moment, doesn't really matter. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say doesn't really matter, but you played 162 games plus, last year. That's a big enough sample size to tell you who the team is, but it is shocking to me. Like the September thing, I can see how you would be clouded by the true talent of the team, but the larger sample there is they were one of the best teams in the American League, except in September, which really drug down how impressive they were in the first 4.5 months of the season.
Yeah, I think I kind of I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here a little bit because I was like, this is fucking pathetic. In September, I'm like, this is insane how bad they are playing. And then like going to the playoffs, and everyone's like, well, the Tigers are just a mid team and they have a sucky average, a sucky offense. And I'm like, no, they were good offense for 4.5 months.
Yeah.
They were a damn good team. Like we shouldn't. They sucked in September, but like they were good before that. They were really good before that. The offense was really good. They were top 10 in everything. It's just September was so bad, it's just dragging that down. It drags all those numbers down.
Right. I mean, and when you look at, I mean, they hit 604 for an OPS in this series, and it doesn't look like Torres showed up. Who, by the way, the sports hernia thing really surprised me.
Yeah,
He had a sports hernia for the last couple of months, and he played pretty well with a sports hernia. So, like
he
you know,
he
good on
definitely
him.
like had gone down in production, but like, okay, he apparently he has to get surgery now. He has an excuse. Because his options were apparently, play through it or don't play at all. So
Right.
I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's fair.
So, I mean, the difference in the series. I mean, it was good pitching on both sides. Like you're looking at just like their overall OPS, and yes, it's 5 games, but you look 899, 820, 700. So you have Carpenter and Torres showing up and Baez, but then you have a pretty big drop off in the offense. If you look at Seattle, it's pretty much the same thing, except for Cal Raleigh just played like an MVP, which I mean I hope he gets it, but I think that really is the difference. I haven't quite looked at the pitching here, but let's look at who showed up here. Um, Munoz was nails. That also really helps. Caleb Ferguson may never see a game again, but and then for Detroit, what do we have here? Skubal showed up. He had 2 games, did everything he could. Casey Mize had a good start, but no, how
Casey Mize had a good start for 3 innings, and then we pulled them for whatever. But yeah, Troy Melton
AJ
was
Hinch cut Hinch cut Stephen Boat disease and had to take out Casey Mize.
yeah. There's so much talk on what should Skubal have stayed in Game 5. Because he was at 6 innings, 99 pitches. Apparently, he was exhausted. So, yeah. But no, what is nice is that Mariners fans are now apparently fucking terrified of Troy Melton. Because he was amazing all series.
oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
But so we're just playing for anyone who's on the audio. We're just playing the Game 5 highlights right now. But for Detroit, this was, I mean, to have Skubal on Game 5, you couldn't have lined that up better. They almost had to have been the favorites going into.
I'm so tired of the Seattle owns Skubal narrative because that's bullshit. First of all,
he had a 2 ERA this series, so clearly they don't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think in the season he had like a 5 ERA against them.
Yeah, it's also because the first game was 3 runs, and then the second game was 4 runs, I think, in 4 innings. Like, okay, the second game, yeah, it was a really bad game from him. Also, he just came off the paternity list in that game. And the first game that was his second start overall, and 2 of those earned runs shouldn't count because those 2 of those runs score after Colt Keith takes a ground ball and then, like an idiot, just stands there and does nothing with it, and the inning should have just ended there. But then right after that is a 2-run double or whatever. So, that should have been an error, but it's not an error because he just ate the ball and didn't do anything with it. But, he just stood there, and it was really weird.
We just showed it, but, Bo Naylor stealing third is really...
Josh Naylor.
Josh Naylor. The other devil. Stealing third was weird to me, but then, Mitch Garver showing up for a sacrifice fly to hit him in. That's two former friends.
Had 30 steals this year.
Naylor did?
So, yeah.
That's so weird.
He had a 20-30 season. Skubal is not paying attention in there, and he took off with the base running by Naylor.
I think they were speculating on the radio that it was just too loud because it looked like Torres was trying to signal or say something, but it was just too loud and Skubal couldn't hear him.
That makes sense.
Sure.
I'm very tired of seeing because it's already happening. It's the Tigers are wasting Tarek Skubal, etc., etc.
Oh
I I hate
no,
that narrative. It's
the only one that was more ridiculous than that is Yankees fan or someone in the Wall Street Journal wrote that the Yankees are wasting Aaron Judge. I'm sorry, you've been to the playoffs eight times in the last 10 years, including a World Series and multiple ALCS, and that's wasting a player.
it's just
Go screw yourself.
we lost both of the Skubal starts is the thing. I just
Right.
I hate the narrative of a team is wasting this
Right.
player.
Easy.
It's just
Easy clicks. I mean, that's. I mean, I hope people who do listen or watch this agree. Like, we're not looking for clickbait crap, and that's what that is. But there's a
it's just
reason.
it happens to it happens to these smaller market teams a lot, and it happened. I'm like it's been a thing for the Lions for decades. Where like, oh, they're wasting this talent. How dare they? And it's like and I don't know. I just
No.
hate that conversation.
Right.
Also,
Scooble.
yes,
What is really impressive with Scooble is we're consistently in the later half of the game. He still can throw 100 plus.
yeah. People
That
are
is
saying
not.
that
And
he
then,
should have gone out for seventh inning. He was done. He was exhausted.
right.
Like like I guess Hinch said, like basically like after the fifth inning, they were like, okay, this is the last inning because he was done. That was we talked before about when we were streaming, the Maddox game, and it's like, oh, that's like an empty the tank pitch. That was an empty the tank pitch. He was done
Mhm.
after that. Also, but again, as soon as we pull him, we give up the lead.
Right.
So
I don't know
that
what more that guy has to do to prove that he's the best pitcher in this sport right now. Like he rose
also
to
who
13 Ks in 6 innings. That just
yeah.
Yeah. I
phenomenal.
mean,
Who else is
I'm
going to do that?
I'm so impressed with how he rose to the occasion in these playoffs in general, but especially in this game 5. Uh, just
He
dominant.
was insane. The thing
yeah.
is, the Mariners did a really good job of working his pitch count. They fouled off a billion pitches. Like they're
And
just
I
a good
think
team.
if there is a game plan against him, it's just to wear him out like that.
Right.
Particularly
Yeah,
with how Hinch manages his pitch count. That's the strategy. Is not so much beat him, just make life hard for him.
Well, like
yeah.
I kind of wonder. I'm just purely speculating here, but I wonder if Lee, when you said that every time Scooble comes out, you give that Tigers just seem to bleed. The lead gets given up, and I kind of wonder if, I mean, when you have the stuff Scooble has, regardless of who comes in after him, it looks a lot more hittable. If you just got done facing Tarek Scooble, like, who knows?
I
But
don't know. Yeah, I don't know how that works.
that would be my working theory.
I think
God,
he
this
just
game
breathe a
is
sigh of relief
so
that that guy's out
rough.
the game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, even like mentally, it's okay. Well, now we're facing a human being again. So,
Yeah.
But also a counter argument to that is okay. You go from when we have those games where you can go from Scooble to Vest, and then Vest is coming out with his because he's got it's mostly just his fastball, but like or like when Canely was good and we would go Scooble Canely Vest. It's still a changeup, but it's a different changeup.
mhm.
So
I think Vest is a great reliever. He's really good. I still think it's thank goodness we got Scooble out of the game. We
Yeah,
have a better
yeah,
we have a
that's
we have a better percentage chance now than we did a minute ago.
no, I
also
think
I
that's
want
fair.
to counter this is kind of pissing me off. The narrative after this game has been, oh, the Tigers' offense sucked so
Nope.
bad. They couldn't score for six
It was
extra
good pitching,
innings. The
and
Mariners weren't doing shit either. They get 2 walks to start the inning, and then they couldn't score, and then, or a leadoff double, and then they still couldn't score that.
right,
I just want to point out the Mariners' offense was also abysmal
right.
in the
But I think
last
the
6 innings.
Tiger. I mean, the Mariners are just to go off a narrative. To me, the the Mariners are a better, stronger pitching staff historically. The Tigers are known for their offense, so it's easier to criticize the Tigers' offense that didn't show up when that's their perceived strength in the series versus, and I know it's different this year because they have like Raleigh hit 62 home runs, well, what, 60 in the season, whatever it is, had an unbelievable season for a catcher, and then you just have Detroit, who just mashed the ball for half the year. But I don't know. We'll see.
I just wanted to point out that it wasn't just the Tigers' offense being miserable. The Mariners' offense was also miserable.
Right.
So,
but also, the
I think
Mariners
that's
have
fair.
a good pitching staff. Like they're
that's the thing. I don't know how much credit should be given to the pitching staffs and how much. I mean, we got to, you know, we used. There were 5 starting pitchers out of the rotation used in this game, right?
Yep.
The Mariners turned to Logan Gilbert and Luis Castillo, I think. We bring out Flaherty for the 13th and 14th innings.
Yep.
Flaherty, by the way, in the 14th inning, the camera zooms in on him, and he's just talking to himself.
Of course.
Like everyone. And then, you know, we bring out Kaneling for the 15th inning, and I think every Tigers fan, yeah, this game is over. But again, you can't blame the pitching when it's the 15th inning
Right.
and no one has scored.
Right.
So I'm not going to get too worked up about, you know, we shouldn't have used Kaneling or, you know, anything like that.
What were your other choices at that point, right?
We're out of choices. Dude, if the Blue Jays don't win Game 1 of the ALCS today, somebody needs to be fired because that is embarrassing.
I have to say, as fun as this was, I said it in our Discord. Whoever came out of it winning that game was totally screwed moving into this next series. Like Toronto is sitting at home resting, ready to throw their best pitcher they can right now. Like I had picked Seattle to win the World Series, and I'm going to stick with that at this point. But they are playing at a disadvantage at this point, without a doubt.
They basically played a doubleheader.
Yes.
Right? I thought about this. Remember in COVID when we had all those doubleheader games and they were all 7 innings? This was more innings than that.
And not just a doubleheader, but a doubleheader where they had to use all their best guys in both games. Like usually you bring up the 6th starter for the doubleheader. No, you used everybody.
I guess somewhere in like the 14th inning or something, when Dingler and Raleigh are like exchanging places as catcher, Dingler asks him, "How are your legs doing?" And Raleigh goes, "About the same as yours." Because they've been catching.
I was about to say that. That has to be brutal. Like I'm glad they had that little kinship because the person suffering through the most of that game. I understand the pitchers are, but yeah, catchers they're just wearing. Cal Raleigh ain't coming out.
Yeah, because during the season, catchers are catching 5 out of every 6 days, maybe 4 out of. These guys are catching every day right now. They don't want to use the backup catcher because all these games are so important. So not only is this a really long game, but they've also caught however many out of the last many days too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I think we can show this about right before this in the highlights. Dingler at the end of the bottom of the 14th inning, you know, gets up and throws a fucking dart to second to catch the runner stealing in the 14th inning.
Yep. So we've been staring at this screenshot for a bit. So can I just say we're watching the final at bat. I'm so happy for Jorge Polanco. Like 14th inning, he leaves the albatross that was the Minnesota Twins just before they're gonna fail completely. And he had 2 home runs in the game 1, and then he has the walk-off.
Game 2. It was game 2.
Sorry, game 2. Has a walk-off hit. Like, I'm really happy for him. Like, just as a Twins fan, I guess. It sucks that he did it for another team, but anyway.
I'm not happy for him. Personally.
I know you're not. But, we lost Ann for a second, so... I don't know, Lee. Any final thoughts on this series?
I have so many thoughts. I don't know where to start. But
exciting series. There's nothing for Detroit to be disappointed about.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I don't know. I kind of do want to talk about games 3 and 4, right? Those are the ones in Detroit. So to get some context in, because at the start of game 4. And then later on, it was bad. I'm talking like it's a 4th inning and people are like booing the Tigers off the field. Like it's bad. But I mean, context, the day before, it's a packed house. They go to this game, gates open at like 2 p.m. It's a 3-hour rain delay. And then they watch the Tigers lose 8-4. And it was not that close, right? They scored 3 runs in the bottom of the
And the
ninth.
ninth.
Like that, those runs did not matter. I mean, it was a there were two errors. It was a miserable game, right? And then starting off in game four, it's a tie. Mariners get to a 1-0 lead, and okay, one run feels insurmountable for this offense right now, but it's still only one run. And then Mize is pulled in the third inning, and then they immediately give up another run, and they still not hitting, and then they give up another run in the fifth inning, and so you know it's not just I saw a lot of like, oh, Detroit fans are, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people want just want to talk shit on Detroit fans because it's Detroit. It's the easy joke to go to of Detroit fans are scum, just like their city, and they're so easily turned. It's not just that. It has been over a month since the Tigers had won in Comerica. The past month has been miserable offensive baseball. They lose a 15 and a half division lead. I mean, at the time, it was only 11 from like beginning of September or whatever. And then they're coming and they're playing these bad baseball games. And it's just, Hinch is doing what is he doing? Because he's pulling Mize too early. Then we immediately give up the lead. And then, the day before was awful. And it's, that was people have every right to, because like what the hell were they watching? It had been a bad month of Tigers baseball, and like the game four was also the first time in Comerica Park that a playoff game wasn't sold out, where a playoff game was under 40,000. It was like 37,000 or something, and so the big deal was made out of that. It was like, oh, look at
It was
how
a Wednesday 3 o'clock game, people.
exactly. Yeah, it's a Wednesday 3 o'clock, and it's only 37,000 compared to 40,000.
And again, like this, I might have the wrong perspective on the Tigers, but you said it a couple times in the show. I don't think Detroit is like hated or like looked down upon. Yes, they've had like a poor run of like sports success, but like so is everyone else in this division. I don't think it's an out. I mean, Dan, tell me if I'm wrong here, but like
I think I
Detroit,
think if it's a grander conversation about how we get viewed as Rust Belt cities in this
right?
country, then yeah, I'm with Lee that it's easy to kind of transfer that over and have that same viewpoint when talking about them as sports fans. And I think that's maybe I may if I'm putting words in your mouth, Lee, let me know.
No,
But
you're right.
I kind of
That's
get where you're coming from.
that's my point. It's the I keep saying it's the easy joke, but I'm kind of repeating
It
Yeah,
myself.
is.
and
That's actually a really good way to put it. Is it's the easy. It's like people talk about the river catching on fire here in the '70s. It's
Yeah, it's like almost 50 years ago.
yeah.
It's yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I don't know. It just pisses me off when people from other fan or like the coastal fan bases want to be like, well, why are you so why are you booing like and stuff like that? It's like it's
right.
I mean like I said, it's been a miserable month of baseball because the
Well,
offense has
well, why
sucked and they
couldn't
haven't won
why
at
couldn't
Comerica.
you go to the Wednesday playoff game at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Because I don't have a cushy Fortune 500 company bullcrap office job that I can leave whenever I feel like. That's why.
It's a
Like,
it's at the end of the day it's a working class city, like
Mhm.
a lot of metro stuff that's not quite, but it's still it's we don't
there's a
all got vacation days out of the ass that we can just
There was
use them.
a
and I'm stereotyping a little bit myself by saying that, and I acknowledge that. But the premise there is like I understand. We had the same thing happen here for the wild card series games. The place wasn't full. MLB really did a number with this playoff schedule this year, and I really wish they'd get off of this have to play one game at a time stuff. 1 o'clock playoff games are idiotic at this point, and I just don't see how that actually benefits the television contract. I still think you'd see have more people watching if you played two games at 7 o'clock. I really do.
Yeah, that's where I
Sorry for the
stand.
tangent.
no, it's fine. There was just to kind of go off that tangent that but this is an old wrestling like story, but there was a guy in El Paso, Texas, who they would have independent territories, and you would have New York was like obviously the largest territory as it was, and the guys in El Paso would have to, go, travel from town to town and really struggle to draw crowds of, a couple thousand. And then they would see like Madison Square Garden get sold out just because they held an event, and they said, yes, more people can get lost finding Madison Square Garden than they can in my entire town. So like we have to earn those dollars to where people in New York, there's so many people in New York, you have no problem filling up the stadium. So I mean, that what value did that story have? Probably none, but I thought
No,
that was
I think that's an astute point. It's a different point, but it's what percentage of New York's population fills Yankee Stadium versus what percentage of Detroit's or Cleveland's fills their ballpark,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
So
I just get annoyed at all those because it's dumb and it doesn't,
it is, but
it's
they
yeah.
it gets them clicks. So, speaking
Yeah.
of clicks, and Lee's going to be so excited to talk about this, Tarek Skubal, the second the Detroit Tigers lost, Skubal had a quote. Um, oh my goodness, and I have the wrong screenshot. Oops, 1 second here. Skubal was asked basically immediately, so what's happening next year? Going to be in Detroit? What are we going to do? And his quote was, I'm going to try to read this. I think the World Series should be the standard, right? I think that's why you play the game. To compete and win a World Series every year. I don't think the ALCS should be the standard. I don't really think the ALDS should be the standard. The standard should be the World Series. It's going to be a lot. There's going to be up to a lot of the guys in this clubhouse. We're young, we're coming back again. This is going to be up to our off season on how we attack it. For me personally, I get back in the gym, get my body underneath me, and get ready to go again. I think the World Series should be the standard for everyone in this organization. All of that is completely fine, but that is vague enough for anyone to just basically ask, so you're going to be in Detroit next year if they don't say it's the World Series or bust?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
And also, yeah, the key words there from everyone in this organization, not just everyone on this team. Those are different concepts. So it's already beginning. I mean, I knew it would, but it's just still, ugh. We have
the
to.
body is still warm and
Yeah.
they're trying to marry off the spouse. Like, what are your first interpretations of it, and then we can open it up to the group.
I think this is just his standard generic answer of I want to win a World Series. That's what he said for past couple years. Now at this point is that should be the goal. We should always want to win a World Series. It's just, and he's also asked about like the contract thing, and he basically said, "That's not my job. I'm just going to go out there and play baseball, and that's the front office and my agent and stuff like that." Basically, I could find like his exact quote, but like that's
Right.
basically what he said. I mean, it's just like answer he's given for the past year, pretty
Right.
much. So
It's a boilerplate answer that gives you nothing other than to say, like, I don't even think you can twist that around and say, like, he's calling out his teammates because he's going to be in the gym next week, and he's basically saying it's up to us how we attack it. Now, is he talking about us as in the other players? Is he talking about the front office? He left that openly vague so people can, talk and debate about that. But I think you're right. This is boilerplate. This is not anything that's newsworthy, except for Buster only, you know, asking those questions. But Dan, what do you think?
I have this theory in the back of my head that is completely unfounded and I'm purely speculating, but I'm going to try to explain it. That 15 and a half game division lead the Tigers blew, I am becoming of the opinion that the clubhouse blames the front office for that, full stop. In that we got to the trade deadline and Tigers did some moves around the margins, tried to kind of marginally make the team better, and didn't make a big swing. And to me, if you're in that clubhouse, that message that's getting delivered is we're not all that enthused to try to go out and try to win a World Series. Or at least we're not going to do a thing to kind of improve the morale, like 26 guys we have to try to seize the opportunity. And the message they got was, well, we can just, you know, dawdle for the next 2 months We got a 15-and-a-half game lead. We're not going to blow this lead. I mean, didn't
I mean,
Harris say that directly?
Scott Harris
Um,
literally said at the trade deadline, "We are 9 games up in the division,"
Yep.
and
yeah.
like use
So I
that as a
think, and then you've got Riley Green as they're, blowing this lead. Oh, it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. This is answer kind of like to the daily question of like, are you guys, what's your attitude with this lead dwindling? His answer was, it is what it is several times. To me, that's just apathy. And I think that apathy comes from the perceived apathy that the front office had at trying to seize this opportunity. So when I hear Tarek Skubal now say it's up to all of us, the players, the organization, etc., I think that answer is also colored by the last 3 months. And so maybe I'm completely off base with this, but I am becoming more of the perception of not that the Tigers purposely tanked the second half or anything like that, but their motivation to seize the
Right.
division was dissipated because the front office didn't do a thing to show how serious they were about winning a World Series. Is that right? That's up to the individual to decide, but I think if Skubal is truthful in his answer about the biggest thing being winning the World Series, there are going to be other teams that can pitch to him better than Detroit at this point in time a year
That's my
from now.
main concern.
Yep.
That's my biggest worry about re-signing him. Is not necessarily will Illich cough up the money. Is not will Scott Harris give him the contract. Is does he think he can win a World Series with this franchise? That's that's the thing that worries me about how he's going to view that, because that is he has said multiple times that that is the only thing he cares about.
That's fair.
So, which
Sam,
Hey,
you're welcome. Popped in
yeah,
there a
I
little bit,
thought
kind of snuck in.
I thought I might swing by, see if I can't catch the 15th inning.
Nope, just finished that part. Lee was thrilled to watch it over again.
Hmm.
God, 15 innings. That game was so long. That was a 5-hour game. 5
Uh,
hour game. That was insane.
so, Sam, do you came in? I think you saw the whole quote there. Any reason for you to think who was Skubal talking about? Is it just are we reading too much into it? All that good stuff.
It seems like a very when you go to you know athlete media school, that's like one of the 5 types of quotes that they teach you how to say. The "I want to win the World Series" quote, and we all need to do better to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed like uh, a very PR type of quote.
Nope, I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
think
fair.
he's been fairly stringent, I think is the word, that he's not going to answer any questions about an extension or re-signing. He's not going to talk about contracts, etc., etc. But they keep asking him about it, so this is his answer, his
Right,
go-to. It's nothing. This is nothing new. This is basically what he said This is basically what he said last year.
right.
So like, I have
And
to do better. We all have to do better. We're going to work hard and shoot for the World Series next year. It's yeah.
He doesn't strike me as someone who's trying to make a quote. He strikes me as someone who's very very not wanting to make a headline. So that I think that tracks.
Yeah.
It's interesting just because he's such a competitive dude. Like marrying those two things together is just interesting to me. And I get it, but I don't know. He's what he's expressing in the media isn't necessarily what he's feeling. And I'm not saying that as a negative towards Detroit or the organization, despite what I just said. It's just interesting. That's all.
So I thought of what it might be, because the speculation around Skubal is going to probably go out through the entire offseason. We don't necessarily need to go into like a deep dive, but this might be kind of a preview of what we want to do for maybe the offseason for some other teams. So what I did is Tarek Skubal has 1 year. Is it 1 year left? Correct.
One
This
year
next
left.
year would be his last year with the Tigers. So he's 1 year out from free agency, which typically it's a bit too late to sign an extension, especially if you want a hometown discount. And, well, he has Scott Boras as an agent, so hometown discounts aren't really going to come up. But I thought what might be worth looking into is I pulled up from Sport Track the top 15 values of starting pitchers. This is current, but let's be honest, this is ever because we're signing. Tarek Skubal is 29, Lee.
He's going to be turning 29 in like a month and a half.
So it does show. So the closest comparison that he really has to me would be Garrett Cole on this list, who signed a 9-year, $324 million in 2020, $36 million a year. Is there anyone that believes he's going to sign for anything less than $500 million?
That's right.
The only caveat I have this point in time, since his contract ends after next year, is guys, there might be a salary cap when Tarek Skubal is a free agent, and so who the heck knows what that means? I think, other than that, all other things being equal, yeah, he's gonna sign for more.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Is there's definitely, I think, 100% chance, maybe not a salary cap, but there's definitely going to be some salary restrictions coming down the pike.
Yeah.
I think
As
that's
long as
fair.
it comes with a salary floor with it, do what you would like. But
Yeah.
that's another discussion. So does everyone agree that Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to be second on this list in December 2027 or 2020 or January 2027?
The only I don't know. This is just me making stuff up, but I would find it interesting if maybe he signs for lower years, because, like he said, he wants to win a World Series. Is he not going to commit to a team for 10 years or something? Is he going to sign for a shorter period of time so then maybe he can jump ship if
I mean,
things aren't going?
this is fairly new, and Boris was kind of the person that kind of navigated this. But if he signs for less years, it will be with Detroit. The big market teams want to draw out the annual average value. So that's why, like, you see 13, 15-year contracts, is because the luxury tax hit is lower. It's on the average annual value. So, like, they can get 13 million and then do, 700 million, whatever it ends up being. the Because, like, Detroit is likely not going to hit the luxury tax, they can afford to do, higher annual values at lower years.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of putting that out there.
Especially if you have years at the end of the contract that you can get out of.
Right, but I guarantee he's going to have an opt out. Like, I would be shocked if he did not have an opt out after like 3 or 4 years. Like, I feel like that's just going to be standard from here on out, especially if there is, like you guys are saying, the luxury tax or / salary cap comes in. We'll see.
Yeah, he's gonna get $1
Answer the
billion.
question. I think yes. The most likely scenario is he's number one on that list too. And when we get together 2 years from now.
Yep. I still think, I mean, now we can kind of talk. I still think he will sign with Detroit because, to me, if I'm Detroit, I can't let him out. I'm going to throw up when I sign that contract, but I don't believe you can let that type of talent just walk away.
Dude,
And they do have a history of signing Miguel Cabrera. They did let Verlander go. They did let Scherzer go. So they did let the starting pitchers go. And I do believe there is a valid argument if starting pitchers, you just let them walk as soon as they hit 30 years old. I get it. But
I mean, they traded Verlander. They didn't.
Right.
That's different because they were. But that was Mike Ilitch. That's not Chris Ilitch. Chris Ilitch hasn't done that yet. So.
Yeah, but still, when they traded Verlander was in his age 33 season.
Yeah.
They were also trying to get money off the books so they can rebuild and do that. So it's a kind of different situation. But the whole Scherzer thing was because they offered him a ton of money, but so I think it was. I have to look this up again because this was a while ago, and I don't remember the details of the contract because I was like 13, so that wasn't really my biggest priority. But I think it was they offered him it was a good contract, but he said no and was like, it kind of pissed off about it because he's Max Scherzer. And later on, and like during the negotiations, Tigers, I think this was Dombrowski, was like, "This is the deal we offered him," and then he got really pissed about that, obviously, and then he went and signed somewhere else. So it was kind of a whole thing. It was
Right.
kind of a mess.
I just,
So
But yeah,
I think if that, and again, as Sam said, that was very much a PR quote. So this is a big if. But if that quote was real, that's his true feelings as far as winning a World Series is most important, then I think the Dodgers and God forbid the Astros and the Phillies all have a leg up on Detroit in in a negotiation just off of
right.
that because they're going to be able to pay the same amount Detroit will and flaunt their pedigree a little bit better.
yeah,
Right.
that's the thing. What really worries me is just we're not going to be able to convince him to come here. So I
I
don't know.
mean, yes, but their competitive window is open. If you give him $500 million, like yes, he's gonna say World Series or bust, but I mean, have $500 million reasons to stick
Yeah,
around for a city.
that's what
I think he'll do it.
we've seen that in the NFL a lot recently. Miles Garrett with the Browns was like, "I want to trade because we're I want to be competitive. The Browns aren't doing it for me." And then he signs for like a
I was
bajillion
that
dollars.
is I was just thinking about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one thing to say World Series, but once you see those zeros, especially in the amount that he's gonna see them, uh, I,
yeah.
it talks. So I
And
don't know.
then there was
I
what else
I
was I
do
gonna
kind of think like what if you're looking for a return from him, you got to look at like the Twins got for Johan Santana with a year left. They got basically two top 100 prospects. They ended up being the wrong prospects, but at the time they were two top 100 prospects and some other. But like probably the Juan Soto trade is probably the ideal. I think that was two top 100 prospects plus like a third. I guess what would we be looking for to trade a year of Tarek Skubal if we don't
I
think we can sign him?
I don't know. I can't have a serious conversation on that right now because I need to. I mean, I need to look some stuff up, but also I don't know. It's too soon right now to really be able to. I think I do want to say on the parts that the Tigers have to sign him because if they don't, the headquarters for Little Caesars might actually burn to the ground, and I'm not joking. Like it's if they don't, the backlash is going to be unreal because I mean,
Yeah.
he's that good, and he's just got he's so competitive, and that's it's I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm tired, and I'm not making sense, but yeah,
I think, and I'm the Guardians fan of this group. I recognize the value of trading players before they hit free agency. I have a long history of seeing that over and over and over again, and a lot of times they're working out quite well. But uh, if the Detroit Tigers are serious about winning a World Series next year, even if you think there's a higher percentage chance Tarek Skubal will not be back, you do not trade him. Even if you think 90% chance he's going to walk after you, your best opportunity to win a World Series is with him on your roster. You roll the dice and you take your best chance in 2026. Now, you probably need to construct your roster with that in mind, knowing that, hey, we're going to lose one of our biggest guns, not one of the biggest gun we have, period, after this year. But I think you got to take your shot. If this is your best opportunity, you don't waffle on that, in my opinion.
yeah, and
If
that's
the
another.
last if the last game that Tarek Skubal pitches for the Detroit Tigers is in the 2026 World Series, would you take that, Lee?
I think so. I mean, if my choices are keep Tarek Skubal and not make a World Series, or not keep Tarek Skubal but make a World Series, I mean, yeah, that's a hard
Mhm.
choice to make, but I think I'd go for the World Series. Because I mean, that you have a good point on the roster construction. Because a lot of conversation on the off, it's like we need to spend in the off season. Okay, how much money are you going to spend this off season if you're with the Scooble contract in question in terms of like, are you going to pay a guy? Because let's say we want to get another starting pitcher because we're going to need another starting pitcher. Do you get a guy like Ranger Suarez who's going to get a big contract? Or do you get some other 35-year-old for a 1-year deal? Because
it's
are you
really
planning on needing the money for Skubal?
that's exactly it. It's really interesting because you almost have to commit this year to whether or not you think you have a shot to retain him or not. Because if you don't think you can, well, then we need to allocate these funds somewhere else to make the most out of 2026. That's very interesting.
I
Yeah,
heard Verlander wants to pitch next year, Lee. What do you think?
Dude, don't
think that would be
even.
fun.
That's been a thing for the past 2.5 months, basically since the trade deadline. Which was, yeah, it's been, yeah. I
If
am
one of the signings, I think that would be fun. If he is
not the
the
only one.
signing, there's some problems there.
Yeah,
But
I would be fine with let's bring Verlander back for a year. Why the hell not? I love Verlander. He would be great. However, he sucked for the first 4 months of the season.
He
Okay,
was, yeah, he was bad.
let's
So-
not get things twisted here because a lot of after the trade deadline, people there was a lot of Paddock never made the major league roster. It never made the playoff roster. Morton was DFA'd before the end of the season. Everyone was like, why should we have just traded for Verlander? It would have been more fun, and he was better anyway. He only started being good after the trade deadline. Let's not get things twisted around. Like, he was bad, okay? I just wanted to put that out there, because that's been a conversation for the last 2 months, and
Well, let me ask you this question real quickly. So last year, Justin Verlander put up 1.2 WAR for the Giants. He pitched 152 innings with a 3.85 ERA. I mean,
yeah. Roll it back.
can he do that? Can he do that again? I mean, I wouldn't say no to that.
Yeah, it would. I would be fine with that. Again, it's just he can't be the only thing we get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
He just can't. We need, if we're going to get Verlander, we need another starting pitcher as well. He should be a bonus add-on, not this is our starter that we got this year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Verlander needs to be like, we're using him as a fifth, as our number 5, like
Yeah.
that level of
yeah, because
importance.
our rotation next year is probably going to be Skubal, probably Flaherty. I don't know what his because he has a player option. It's a whole thing about that. I'm going to say, let's say Flaherty, Olsen, Mize, and Melton, probably. But again, Melton is going to be a rookie. Olsen and Mize both have injury histories. We're going to need another starter.
Yeah, you can't assume you're going to get through a season with 5 guys. No way.
Yeah.
I thought of this just because you were listing off Morton and the other starter. I forgot his name now. We're going backwards. I apologize, but did any in that 15 inning game? Did any of those dudes that Scott Harris traded for at the deadline? Any of those relief pitchers? None of them made an appearance, did they? In a 15 inning game.
Kyle Finnegan did. He gave up the tying run.
Finnegan.
Mm-hmm.
My bad. So the
He gave
most
up the
prominent
tying
of them
run in
did.
the 7th. So
But
yeah.
no Montero, no Seawald, none of them guys. Some of those guys weren't even on the roster, I imagine. But,
No. And
then the one guy that you did get gave up the tiger.
And he gave up the losing run in game 2 too, which sucks.
He was not the same pitcher after he came back from the injury,
No,
which to
he
me
was
they
just
just rushed him
injured.
back because they had to. Yeah.
We needed to. I mean, what a disaster of the trade deadline. Yeah, I mean,
regardless of what you think of the Tigers trade deadline, let me hold my beer. From people from all of Minnesota.
Eric, in order for something to be disastrous, you have to do it expecting positive results.
Well,
like I don't think the Twins were expecting positive results when they had their trade deadline.
boy, were they ever. Jesus. All right. Do we have any thoughts on this? Because that's a pretty good transition into our next and probably fairly brief topic. Who knows?
I wanted to see just a couple more things about the Tigers Mariners series. I'm sorry, I know we're going backwards, but I just thought, that game 5. I mean, I just want to reiterate that this Tigers team had low expectations going into the playoffs. They basically forced a game 6 because that was an extra 6 innings there, and the first game was 11 innings. I mean, that was just I genuinely. I mean, maybe I'll have more coherent thoughts to keep going back and forth, but genuinely think this team did a good. At the end of the day, this was positive because I mean they made the ALDS 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row, you get to Game 5 of the ALDS. I mean, it's not World Series, but like that's still good. I think it's just proof that this team has there is something there. They just need to add to it. Is the problem? Anyway, I'm going way off. That
The
was
the
that was
roster, the payroll needs to expand because you're in the middle of the playoff window. I think that's fairly clear. Or you need to trade to supplement the roster. You could, to me, it would be a failure if they just roll this roster back and say we're good.
yes. We need. I think the past 2 years have proven we need a little bit more. But yeah. Let's see. That game 5, 15 innings, that is tied for the fourth longest game, or maybe it was the fifth longest game in MLB playoff history. That is the longest Tigers postseason game in franchise history. And it is the longest winner take all postseason game in MLB history. That's some fun stats for you. And then also, I just want to mention again, Troy Melton this series was unbelievable. He was fantastic.
Well,
Yeah,
that game lasted long enough. That game started. I was at a high school football game in Jeff City for Friday Night Football. I was on the field when the game was in the ninth inning for the 10 o'clock news for our live shot for Friday Night Football. I then drove back up to Columbia from Jeff City, got back to the station at like 11:15. Game still going on. Waited at the station for 30 minutes because we were supposed to do a newscast after this game on Fox. Our boss calls us, tells us we don't have to do a newscast. Drove home, game still going on. And the game didn't end until maybe a couple minutes after midnight local time. But that game was long enough for me to do all of that in the span of one baseball game.
it was it was unbelievable. I wasn't listening to it because I was at work, so I was just watching it on mute. The broadcast kept going on and on. Just bunt. They need to bunt, and the T-Mobile Park did a 14th inning stretch. They did
Nice.
they have a salmon run thing with like all these like like the Brewers do their hot dog race. They did a second salmon run in like the 15th or 14th. Like that game was insane. There were 5 starting pitchers used from the starting rotation. You know, that was an insane stupid game.
As
Only they would have kept the concession stands open past the 7th inning, and that
Right,
everyone would have been happier.
Yeah, around the 12th inning, everyone's like, "These people have sobered up. You
Yeah, I was
should
about to say everyone's sober now.
Yeah, they need to open the bars back up in the stadium. We were sitting there because we have to do a newscast on Fox because we have both ABC and Fox are on our feed, and we usually go on at 9 on Fox. But if there's a sporting event, we just go on after our 10 o'clock news. And so all the people who had to do the newscast were just sitting there in the station, and when just like begging the game to end so we could just do because all we have to do at least like an A block, or like fill time until the next half hour. So everyone was just like praying, and then the Mariners hit into that double play with first and third, and everyone's like, "God damn it!" So yeah, we had a little different rooting interest for that one than the typical viewer.
There's a NFL YouTuber I watch, Tom Grassi. He normally
Mhm.
streams like football games, like Thursday,
Yeah.
Sunday night, and Monday night. He does like Friday night Q&As. On a whim, he's like, "Oh, the game's in the 8th inning. Let's just stream this game," and then he stuck with it until the end. And there's just the clip of at the bottom of the 14th when it goes to the 15th. He's like, "Why? Why did you suggest baseball?"
Mhm.
He's like regretting everything. It's so funny. I mean, but that was like that's one of those games that's going to be a where were you games because just how and just because it's an instant classic, right? You know, like winner take all, game 5, ALDS, the whole series has been tense, this tense back and forth affair. And then it goes 15 innings. I mean, incredible.
Can you guys can you guys think of a series that was better since the 2016 World Series?
I
The
can't really.
2019 World Series.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was thinking the Nationals is where I went. Um,
The 2023 ALCS was good. The Rangers Astros.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
yeah, I can't think. I mean, I really got a lot of joy out of the game 5 of last year's World Series, but I don't think that's not the same.
That's not the same. That's just Schadenfreude. That's not. Damn, what a good series.
So, well, that's the last game of baseball we're going to cover for a number of months. So now that the season is officially dead for the American League Central Division, I just thought we'd just talk about highlights and like just a high and a low of the entire of the entire seasons for each team. Sorry, White Sox fans, we're in the process of finding someone to cover your team, so we don't have an answer for that. But Sam, since you joined, well, actually, you're just hearing about this, so maybe I'll give you a minute to think.
I think I can probably do a high and a low.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I think the Royals had a pretty up and down season this year. They had a lot of moments where you kind of felt like things were really going in the right direction, and they had a lot of moments where things were really going in the wrong direction. I think for me, the high was probably when MJ. No. For me, I would say the high was probably Salvador Perez getting his 300th home run, his 1,000th RBI, and his 1,700th hit, all in one swing. I think that was a pretty cool moment for Royals fans. That was a pretty cool moment for him. So I think that would probably be the high of the season. And then I think the low of the season is just them crapping their pants in September.
Any specific game?
Probably losing 2 out of 3 to the Angels at the beginning of September, and then losing 3 out of 4 to the Guardians, and kind of after that you just go, well, season's over.
Dan?
So, if it pleases the podcast, I actually have an individual highlight and low light as well as a team.
Sure.
I'll start with the highlights. No, I'll start with the lowlights, and then on a good note here. From June 26th to July 6th, the Guardians went on a 10-game losing streak. At that point, they were in 4th place in the AL Central Division. They were 40-48, and they were 15.5 games out of first place. During that 10-game losing streak, their batting average collectively was 166. Their WRC plus was 38. 38. Talk about that. That was rock bottom. To the positive, from September 11th, tough choice for a date, but that's when it was, to September 28th, they went 13-3. They went from 8.5 back of Detroit to a 1-game lead, finished 88-74, and collectively, not just bullpen, but collectively, were first in ERA at 2.34. Pittsburgh was second at 2.74. There was a .40 difference between them. That's how much the pitching excelled for Cleveland, and ultimately ended up erasing the biggest division deficit in league history in the 125 years of baseball as a sport. Um, Lee rolling her eyes over there, I noticed. Individually, uh, the lowlights, Clase and Ortiz getting sent to the
Yeah.
Shadow Realm. This is why I had to do one of each. Sorry, but that happening, your most prominent off-season acquisition, as well as your all-star closer, just not being available for self-inflicted reasons is awful. And then highlight, I can't I can't get past this segment without mentioning Jose Ramirez. Another 30-30-40 season, 30 homers, 30 doubles, 40 steals, career high 44 steals to be specific, and continues to be the best third baseman in the sport. So wanted to at least acknowledge him.
I think that's fair. I The low point's pretty easy for Twins fans. I will the trade deadline day, specifically the Louis Varland trade, because that came out of nowhere. We were live streaming it, and it was like 2 minutes before the deadline, and there were some hints that Griffin Jacks could be traded. We talked about that. We talked about Correa. It was unlikely, but it was at least rumored, and that all the impending free agents are likely going to be gone. But the Louis Varland trade to Toronto for two minor league pitchers. No, sorry, for Alan Roden and then I forget the name of the pitcher. He's in AAA. That was like well, what the hell is going on here moment. Like, this is much deeper than I think we thought. Now this is like a full fire sale instead of just like a minor setback, because he had 5 years. He still has 5 years left of team control, and there was not a hint of trading Louis Varland, who was born and raised in Minnesota as a Twins fan. And as soon as he gets success in the bullpen after being a struggling like fifth starter for a couple of years, to ship him out, that was shocking in Minnesota. For the high point, it's a couple weeks before. It was probably like a week before that. It was a Buxton hit for the cycle, and it was also on the back of they had gone. I think they had won 3 of their last 4 series, and then Buxton hit like a multi-home run game, like the two. But then hitting for the cycle was really special, and just to watch him all year was like healthy for the first time. I felt just happy for the dude, even though I've never met him before, because he needed to get that monkey off his back, and you can kind of you can finally see what a full year of him looked like. He only stole 24 bases, but it was in 24 attempts. He wasn't caught stealing all year. He had a 30 home run season. He had a 4.9 B WAR. I haven't checked what Fangraphs is. I'm assuming it might be a little higher, but who knows. For the only, one of 2 guaranteed contract players on the team next year, I'm glad it's him. He seems like a good dude. I just hope he doesn't get punished for his loyalty. But that's more of an off-season topic. So, Lee.
Yeah, so maybe it's easier if I start with the low light, because for me personally, like just looking at some of the high points of the season, it's a little bittersweet, just because there were at those points there were so high expectations just for like one example. This is my highlight, but like when we swept the Guardians in Cleveland, it was we put the Guardians away, we swept them, we finally we did it, we got the division, and so it's hard to look back at that as like such a high point. But I think the low point is fairly easily there were 2 very bad stretches for the Tigers in terms of just playing poorly. But I think the end of the season, where we go 3-13 to end September, starting at, hilariously enough, very conveniently, September 11th, same date as what Dan said for his high point of the season. We go meanwhile, the Tigers are going 3-13 and lose the division. So that's a pretty easy low point in a low light for the season. But I think a highlight for the season was um, going back to May. Let me check the date. The date is, yes, May 13th. We're playing Boston in Detroit, and Javi Baez in the bottom of the 11th inning hits a 3-run walk-off home run. I think that was the highlight of the season because that was the signal of this season is for real, this team is for real, and Javi Baez was a big part of it at that time. And like he second half fell off a bit more, yes, but he was still huge in the postseason. He was still that that moment was just such a kind of a what's the word? I guess I know reassurance. I don't know if it's the right
Mhm.
word, but
It
this
felt
team is for real. It's it was
this feels different.
yeah, like this season is different. That was kind of the confirmation for that, and also it was just an epic game. I mean, Javi had a best game as a Tiger. 2 3-run home runs. He's at this point he's playing center field. It was just a really great moment for that.
Yeah, and like not for nothing. Like I know I probably was too harsh on Javi Baez rather than just enjoy the ride of Javi Baez, which was probably it was one of the better stories in baseball. I took the opposite route of like this is almost like a fraud or a charade, and like he's going to revert back to what he was. So maybe I have a little bit of regret on that, but that was pretty fun. Like looking back on it and just watching someone that I mean that contract is already a wash to just kind of have a 3 month renaissance was kind of fun.
I would add to that, he played well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He was, in my opinion, the MVP of the wild card series. Um, I think that alone is valuable in and of itself for him to help at that point in time. We talked about the Tigers needing veteran leadership. You got some out of Hobby here towards the end of the year as well.
Yeah.
He's always been that guy. It's just I think he just sucked so bad that Tigers fans were like, don't care. He's that bad, and
At
but
least,
like
and his way of not playing well is aesthetically not pleasing as well. Like the wild swinging and all that. Like even people who are not that in tune with baseball can watch that and be like, man, this guy's really not very good, is he? The way he's swinging at everything. So I think it's an easy target, kind of like, but um, no, he played very well, and I think if he can just continue to be a contributor, that'll do a lot for Detroit moving forward.
Well, I
I
feel
think
like that was like now you can see an avenue. Like he's
Hmm.
not going to live up to the contract. That's gone. But you can see an avenue where he's a productive player. He is an asset to the team. Where before this year, it just looked like you needed to DFA him and just move on from the entire scenario. Now you have a backup fifth, like a not like a second string center fielder, but you have a fifth outfielder. He can still play short. He can still like he's more utility guy, and he just when he gets hot, ride it for all you can. He'll pop.
Hmm.
If you give him, I mean, a 350 plate appearances a year now, he's probably gonna pop 15 home runs, roughly. I mean, whatever it ends up being. So, and that can be dangerous in the playoffs. If Javi Baez going off in the playoffs can be damaging. But
yeah, I mean
We
he had
we've
his
seen
best.
we've seen in this playoffs how important making every play is, and he will make every play.
yeah,
Yeah, he's. I mean, the problem was the past couple of years is his defense fell off too. Like it wasn't just his offense because that was the most obvious way, but his defense was not that good. I mean, it was fine to below average. That was the problem. Like there was just no value being added there. But now, he'll have his moments. He's still going to be really good with runners in scoring position because he always was, even when we sucked. And even when he was bad, like he was always better when you got those runners in scoring position and you got guys on base and in tight games. He he's still going to be good there, and his defense is going to be unbelievable. Still, he just can't beat the. He's not necessarily should be the starting shortstop, but like he's going to be a good utility guy because his defense is just
You
that
just
good.
you just have to figure he was finally healthy, and that explains the defensive component of it. Like he was
Yeah.
finally able to maneuver around the field in a way he probably couldn't the last couple of years.
He said like after he got that hip surgery, like I couldn't believe how much better I felt. That's, like it was affecting him more than he thought.
Yeah. All right. Sam, you showed up a little bit late, so I didn't know if you had a couple thoughts just on the Royals or.
Yeah, I've got a couple thoughts on the Royals. Nothing too extreme here, but the Royals had their sort of end of season press conferences, interviews, things like that. So Matt Quachero and JJ Piccolo, that's the Royals manager and general manager, respectively, they gave a press conference a week or two ago. Answered some questions, basically said, disappointment, want to do better, got to make it back to the playoffs, things like that. Not a ton came out of that press conference outside of what you would expect to hear. But one thing that they did mention is that they are planning on bringing back Royals hitting coach Alex Zumwalt, which is something that a lot of people were calling for the opposite of. In fact, they were expecting Mr. Zumwalt to be fired. Royals had some of the lowest scoring number of runs this season in MLB. I don't know exactly how I feel about this. I mentioned in our Discord chat that at the end of the day, he's not the guy standing at the plate. And the Royals came into the season with a few guys who standing at the plate is about all they were good for. And I'll give you a couple numbers to put this in perspective. Mike Yastrzemski, Adam Frazier were two of the Royals' acquisitions at the trade deadline this year. Yastrzemski with the Giants this year, a 685 OPS. With the Royals, he had an 839 OPS. So that's 372 at bats, 321 at bats versus 156 at bats for Yastrzemski. And then for Frazier, his OPS with the Pirates this year, 654, 722 with the Royals. 235 at bats, 184 at bats. So that's just two guys. Is that because of the hitting coach? There's no way to answer that question. But how much is the hitting coach going to change the fact that you have a lack of talent in your starting lineup? So rumors have also been that the Royals are looking for looking to shake things up sort of below the hitting coach in sort of the analytics and the other guys who work in the offensive departments. That I think, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think probably something needs to be shaken loose there. But a lot of fans were pretty upset when they mentioned that they're going to bring Zumwalt back, to which, it's get better players.
Well, so I just looked up Kansas City's, not only get better players, but specifically corner outfield was an absolute joke in Kansas City. I'm just going to list off their baseball reference for. So Drew Waters played the most game in left field for the Royals. He had a negative .4. Kyle Isbell.
He got off to a good start, and they stuck with him for too long when he was struggling. Drew Waters
had a 603 OPS. Kyle Isbell had a 654 OPS. He had a 1.6 positive WAR.
Kyle Isbell's a defensive center fielder, and his bat has been a little bit better this year, but he's not the problem.
His value is defense. Jack Caglione, who is a rookie, has got his taste, negative 1.3. Kevin Biggio, negative 0.2. Left field, Nick Lofton, negative 0.4. Mike Yastrzemski was positive 1. John Rave was 0.1. And then Mark Canna, negative 1. Hunter Renfro, negative 1.5. Randall Grichuk, negative 0.4. MJ Melendez, negative 0.6. What do you expect to do when two corner outfield spots are actively hurting your team?
Yeah. And again, that's I think the Royals season in a nutshell is we did not have good enough players.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that's
I
it.
agree.
That's it. Didn't have good enough players. So
I had forgotten that Mark Canha was on the Royals roster this year.
yeah.
Somehow I did too, and he's a former Tiger.
I forgot.
Is he still? Was he still there? Did he end the season as a Royal?
No. He got DFA'd midway through the year. I forgot Kevin Biggio was on the team this year. He got DFA'd halfway through the year too. So anyway,
You know what's funny
So-
is Kevin Biggio is listed as their DH.
yeah, I know.
And he had a 543 OPS.
Yeah, he was the opening day first baseman, Kevin Biggio.
Yeah, so I mean, that's where like I feel like if I'm a Royals fan, if you can find corner outfielders with an OPS with an 800 OPS for like 10 million, 15 million, like that is if you need to find something to go from an absolute negative to a strength, those are the positions you want. What happens to the Royals if you just get an average starter?
That's what makes me feel better about next year is that the starting pitching and sort of the core of the offense is in place.
Yep.
They just need to get some guys in, some professional players in who can just be, slightly above replacement level to go along with
They can't be black
Garcia, Bobby Witt Jr. Exactly. So
I think
let's go out and let's get some of those Mike Yastrzemskis and some of those Adam Fraziers and some of those guys like that this offseason.
Is there any push to want to bring Yaz back?
I would say so. Problem with Yaz is he's getting up there. He was a late, he made his debut very late. I would love to see him come back. Now, again, who knows if he's going to have the same type of season. I would like to get someone, a little bit younger because I think he's going into like his age 35 season next year.
Oh, I didn't realize he was that old.
Yeah, he made his debut at like 28. So I'd like to see maybe get someone who's a little closer to that age 30 season, but we'll see. I think both of those guys.
Perfectly good Pete Alonso looking for 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is going to be on the open market this year. That would be
on his
good.
12th team.
That would be good enough for me,
Does anyone remember Isaiah Kiner-Falefa was a twin for 2 days?
He was?
When? He was?
In spring training. So they traded Mitch Garver to the Rangers for Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. And then the Yankees apparently were also talking with Texas about him because they needed a shortstop. This is before Volpe. So they traded Kiner-Falefa to the Twins, the Rangers did. And then the Yankees were like, we still really want him. We will take your Josh Donaldson and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa for Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. And they made that trade like 2 days later. And then they used that money that they saved up for Josh Donaldson to get Carlos Correa.
Interesting.
When the Twins spent money and, would make moves. What a time. Yeah. Time to be alive.
When the sun shined and everything was there was joy in Minneapolis.
So I would say go out and get a, Cedric Mullins or a, Tyler O'Neill, 2 guys who are probably going to be free agents this upcoming offseason. So
I think that's
so there's that.
I think that's the big difference between the Royals and the Tigers right now. Like both teams, I think they will have a lot there, and there's a lot positive going forward. I think the main difference is the Royals. There were very clearly players you keep and players you do not keep.
Yeah.
The Tigers, I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine, and we're like, there are 15 players on the Tigers right now that you could ask 100 Tigers fans, and they will all give you different answers on which of those 15 you keep and which of them are not worth keeping, because there's just so many guys that are like good or like pretty good, but they're or decent, and their ceiling, you don't know how high their ceiling is and their floor is low, so it's
It's
like
a coin flip if you
could-
want to trade. If you want to shake up something, and it's a coin flip if you're going to trade Torkelson, Riley Green, or Kerry Carpenter.
You could ask 100 Royals fans right now, and every single one of them would say, sign Michael Garcia and Vinny Pasquantino to an extension.
It's like,
Do it right now.
Yep.
You ask 100 Tigers fans about Wenzel Perez, you're going to get a 50-50 split. You ask 100 Tigers fans about Zach McKinstry, you're going to get a 50-50 split. If you ask 100 Tigers fans about Parker Meadows, I mean, you get the point. There's just so many of those guys that are like on the bubble. It's like, where do they stand? So I think that it's going to be very interesting for both teams going forward in terms of like the Royals, are they going to get rid of some of those dead weights? Kind of.
Yeah. So, but anyway, but then, go ahead if you have something, Dan.
I was just going to say, meanwhile, like with the Guardians, they have enough offensive holes where you're kind of looking at them and you have to decide which of these dudes is more likely to come out of this and be good. Like, is Bo Naylor going to be what he was in September for longer? He did make a mechanical change. There is reason to think that could happen. Like, as opposed to, who's going to play right field? Which version of John Kinsey Noel are you going to get? Is he an option? Is it going to be one of the guys that came up at the end of the year? Is it going to be DeLauder or Valera? I still stand by the fact that there's not a center fielder on this roster. I think that's the one obvious thing that needs to be remedied. But center fielders that can hit the ball are pretty expensive.
Expensive, yeah.
But the Guardians have about $40 million coming off their books. They too had their postseason talk with the media, some Vogt and Antonetti and all them. Zach Meisel from The Athletic asked about 17 different ways, will there be more financial flexibility this winter? And never got an answer.
Yeah.
So I think it's just one of those things where, like, if the right situation comes up, they did acknowledge that the offense was not good enough. So it's not like they're trying to fool themselves or anything like that, but it's just got to be the right scenario. And so they don't want to commit to saying, yes, we're going to spend, because the value has to be, that thread the needle Goldilocks scenario that they need. Anyway, so I guess there's a third scenario here that I'm trying to convey where we know there's holes, but we know we can't plug them all. So which ones are the ones that are creating the most leakage? And those are the ones we need to remedy.
I feel like the Royals are the most likely to just spend $30 million just to find those holes. The Guardians are going to do what they always do. They're going to trade a starting pitcher and then get a center fielder back.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with that even. There's depth there.
Speaking of the Royals payroll, John Sherman, the owner of the Royals, gave an interview to Royals beat writer Ann Rogers, who, again, same kind of answers, disappointment, got to get back to the playoffs, that kind of thing. He said, gave a vote of confidence to JJ Piccolo and Matt Quatraro, which I think is a legitimate vote of confidence, not a kiss of death vote of confidence, but he gave one interesting quote, and I will read it here. He was basically asked about payroll, and he said, quote, "We have to win, right? It'd be great if you can have an $80 million payroll and pull it off. We had to make that investment after 23 to give us a shot in the arm. If we can be competitive at a lesser dollar rate, that's great. But we have found ourselves in a situation where we have to invest at a higher level, and it's important to do so." I read that as hey, I want to win, and I'm willing to spend some money to do so.
Wallet's open, guys. Go
Yeah.
shopping.
We make the the Velcro sound of the wallet opening. So I think he is not the type of guy who's going to it's never going to be spend spend spend. But I think he is a little bit more looking at this as um, you know he sees this as an opportunity to have a winning team, and is willing to make the moves to do so. And probably saw the lack of moves that were made last offseason. Not that there were no moves, but that's a whole different can of
So
worms.
this,
But
not
it
to use
was,
a
yeah.
not to use a bad analogy, but he's not going to write you a blank check, but he's going to open up the wallet and say, "Go get yourself something nice." Like,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. He's gonna
I like
say
that.
he's gonna give you your budget,
yep,
you know, and if you need to go a little bit over budget, you're gonna have to really,
yep.
explain to him, why you went over budget, and it better work out if you do. Um,
Which is how
but
it should be. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't want to. He does probably not deserve praise for saying, but like he deserves praise for saying that. Like
yeah,
acknowledging the quiet part. Thank you.
yes. Um, so anyway, that was what Sherman said. Oddly enough, in this interview that was published, there was no talk of stadium.
No.
Now, I would imagine that Ann Rogers probably asked him a question about it, because I think she's a pretty decent writer. I, I'm guessing that the answer was no comment, or we're looking at all options, or
Equally
something like
generic.
that. Yeah, equally generic. But it's interesting to note that the Royals at the beginning of the year gave themselves a quote middle of the year deadline to make a stadium decision, and it's now checks watch October, and that decision has not been made. So
I'm just gonna guess that something has happened, and now they're just finishing out the details, and they're gonna put out the official press release. Is what I would read into that, but I clearly don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. Um, Frank White was recalled from his position as Jackson County executive a couple weeks ago. He's been someone who's been, former Royal Frank White, Jackson County executive. He was recalled from his position by it was like 85% yes to recall him.
Mm.
Um, he's been really gumming up the works of the stadium. There's also a bunch of property tax stuff that he's been involved in that people are mad about. It's a whole thing. I'm not going to get into local politics. But
We have a
uh,
whole off season to talk about local politics.
I was just thinking the
exactly,
same thing.
exactly. He and also it's being challenged in court right now, so we'll see what happens with that, of course. Um, but there's a lack of leadership in that department, and we'll see whoever the next person is, if they're committed to keeping them in Jackson County, or if they go into up north into Clay County, or across the state lines into Johnson County.
So those
Or
Cambians can finally
or
start paying the taxes for the team.
yeah, or northwest across the state line to Wyandotte County, where Kansas Speedway is.
Sam, I like how you're
To,
giving us directions, and we're just like, yeah, that sounds
Yep,
right. Like,
sounds about right.
yeah, yeah. Well, give me a Missouri and Kansas County quiz, and we'll see how I do. But anyway, point is, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear anything about the stadium until, you know, until next year.
Sure.
So, but also worth mentioning that the lease for both the Chiefs and the Royals goes through 2030. So,
But still, to
There
Oh,
build
you
a
go.
that
stadium for
reminds me.
each, I got to start, sometime in the next 2 years.
mhm.
Somehow I totally forgot about this because so much has happened. Comerica Park is not going to be Comerica Park for as long as we thought it was going to be. Because
Yeah.
we need more monopolies, right? We need more companies buying up other companies and conglomerating into one big megacore. So Fifth Third Bank recently bought Comerica Bank, and part of that with that comes the naming deal for Comerica Park, and it's already been said that Comerica Park is not going to be Comerica Park. Next year it's going to be Comerica Park, but it could be renamed as soon as 2027. So that is going to be something, you know,
I am
a
not
thing.
going to call that stadium Fifth Third Bank Stadium. I'm going to call it Comerica Park.
I was about to say,
As
it's
long,
still
yeah,
Miller Park to me. It's still Safeco Field. I'm sticking by that.
yeah, no. And also, here's the other thing. There used to be a Fifth Third Field in West Michigan, but now that one's been renamed for the single A team. And current Fifth Third Field is in Toledo, so it would be really weird to have Comerica be renamed to Fifth Third Park or Fifth Third Field because that's been the AAA stadium for so long. It's just that would be
No, I'm sure there's
the
a very
yeah.
smart reason to why they do it, but the fraction is reversed. There is no fifth third fraction. It's 3/5. So that's my
It's
unusual.
because there was a fifth bank and a
I
third
don't,
bank, and then they
here's
combined. And
I don't need
yeah,
their actual answer. I'm just saying the fraction is stupid.
That's come on. That's what I. This is really stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway. Come on down to the fraction and watch the Tigers play. You know how
There you
these
go.
these places have nicknames for their ballparks or whatever. We're going to go down to the fraction tonight, guys.
Nope.
yeah.
It's
What
the
about a
frack,
mixed
actually. You
fraction
can't
park?
even.
The frac. Ooh, I like that better. The
The
frac.
frack.
We're going down to the
Right.
frac.
The dream is, of course, to have it be Tiger Stadium presented by Fifth Third Bank, and then it's just Tiger Stadium. That would be the dream. But obviously, that's not going to happen because they're going to put thought and care into this and come to the conclusion. You know what we need? We need to rename this after our bank to remind everybody that Fifth Third Megacore owns this stadium, or
Well,
owns the
this
naming rights for the stadium.
well, this conversation has chased Sam away. That or his internet bugged out for a bit, but I don't know
I
if
just wanted
he
to bring
had.
that up because I forgot about that.
I don't
But
know if he
I
had any
was
other thoughts or to go on. Does anyone have any quick thoughts? I think we can probably start wrapping this up. We're about an hour 30, which is pretty good for us actually, especially in recent
I
weeks.
got I got one last thing I want to ask you guys. Do you guys want to do? We don't have any division predictions to do. Do we want to kind of re look at where we're at in terms of who we think is going to win the World Series or anything?
Yep.
We can do that.
I mean, I'm going all for Mariners Brewers. That's the World Series I want. That's not the World Series I don't think MLB wants, but I don't care. I'm happy the Yankees are gone, and Brewers and Mariners from here on out.
I think it's going to be Blue Jays. I said Blue Jays last week.
They look very
I,
good.
I still think,
Maybe.
yeah, I think, I mean, maybe this is mean of me. Look, the Mariners could barely score against our mess of a starting rotation and pitching. They could not outscore this disastrous offense that has been for the past 2 months. I don't think they're going to be able to outscore the Blue Jays. I just,
Now the Blue Jays are kind of holding their starting rotation together with duct tape and Treya Savage, but for that reason, I think I picked Seattle to win the World Series. I'm going to keep that. I also had the Cubs win the World Series. That's not happening now. Although that was a very good series too, by the way. Like, but at this point, I think I got Mariners over Dodgers.
I think whoever comes out of the AL wins. Actually, this might because I think Mariners can beat either Dodgers or Brewers, but my thing is, and I think Blue Jays can beat the Dodgers or the Brewers. I just think the Blue Jays are going to beat the Mariners. I think one, they just had to play 2 games in one day, essentially, less than 2 days ago. So they're going to lose game one. Their bullpen is exhausted,
Right.
has been
What I
exhausted.
do appreciate about the Blue Jays is there's no finesse. They're just going to bludgeon you to death. Like,
Yeah,
they're just going
I
to
think they're
hammer
just
the
going to
ball.
outscore them, and I think they're just going to. You're welcome, Blue Jays. By the way, I just want to say, Tigers did ya? Tigers wore them out for you.
Well, I
Sam, who you
think
going for?
I think I called Brewers over Jays
Looking pretty good.
last
That's
time
still
we were
looking pretty good.
last time we were here, so I think I'll stick with that. I'm going to stick with the Brewers over the Jays.
Yeah. So we'll see. So with that, I think we'll call this one. Don't know what the schedule is going to look like. We've been batting around going bi-weekly. I think that's kind of the favor right now. We could also just kind of pop in periodically throughout the off season, but whatever we do, we'll be as consistent as we can, or at least let you guys know kind of what the plan is. So, with that said, thank you all for listening. I'm told that if we say to like, comment, subscribe, that apparently helps. So I don't know, like, comment, and subscribe if you feel. See you guys next time.